Hey everyone, Steve here from Old Guy Insights. We just got a jobs report that's turning heads right before the election. Only 12,000 new jobs were added in October, a massive month-long drop from September's 223,000. So is this a momentary market dip or are we looking at something bigger? Stick around because I'm going to dive into the facts and figures and forecasts behind this number. And there's a twist in how the experts see it. You'll want to hear what Fox News and top economists both have to say. So let's start with what we know. Two big events hit the U.S. economy hard last month. Hurricanes Helene and Milton and the ongoing strikes at Boeing and Textron. Imagine what it's like in the storm-swept South right now. Flooded streets, businesses shut down, and people struggling to get back on their feet. Almost 500,000 people couldn't make it to work, and that was because of extreme weather conditions. And that's a lot of lost labor hours. On top of that, we have 30,000 or more Boeing workers off the job since mid-September. And now Textron, another aerospace giant, has its own employees joining in industrial actions. For the manufacturing sector, which heavily relies on these massive employers, this kind of strike activity takes a big bite out of the job numbers. The Labor Department reported that manufacturing lost 46,000 jobs in October, mostly in transportation equipment due to these strikes. Brian Colton from Fitch Ratings summed it up well. He said, at face value, the 12,000 increase is obviously a weak number, but it follows a very robust September and was affected by strikes and possibly by the hurricanes. Most economists agree that these disruptions are temporary. They're not telling of a deeper downturn. On one hand, some economists say this is a stormy statistic with clearer skies on the horizon. On the other hand, a Fox News story might have you thinking the sky is falling. Andrew Krapuchitz, CEO of Red Balloon, calls this jobs report the worst he's ever seen, not just because of hurricanes and strikes, but because of the bigger picture. He points to high national debt, potential policy shifts, and an election on the horizon. Andrew worries these factors could spell serious setbacks if they create a cautious business environment. Well, when companies sense potential challenges, they tend to tighten up, trim costs, and tap the brakes on hiring. And here's the kicker. For businesses dealing with global supply chains or imports, tariffs are also part of this equation. If companies anticipate rising rates and restrictive regulations like tariffs, they often go into defensive mode. And in an election year, those tariffs and regulations can quickly change direction, keeping businesses on edge. And to make sense of this October report, it might help to look back in history at similar times when the job market sputtered due to temporary troubles. And when we look at the deeper pressures that held it back, we get a different picture. In August 1997, UPS experienced one of the biggest strikes in U.S. history, with 185,000 workers off the job. It hit transportation jobs hard, and people wondered if it was a sign of bigger issues in the labor market. But as soon as the strike ended, hiring snapped right back. If Boeing and Textron settle soon, we might see a similar rebound in manufacturing, with job numbers recovering as these workers return. Then there's the post-hurricane pattern. We saw it with Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Entire neighborhoods were underwater and local job numbers plummeted. But when the cleanup began, demand for construction, caregiving, and community services all surged, boosting job growth. If history repeats itself, we could see similar job gains in areas hit by Helene and Milton once the rebuilding gets underway. Now, here's a story with a slower climb back. The early 1980s, back then the U.S. faced high inflation and heavy interest rates causing unemployment to surge. With borrowing so expensive, businesses froze hiring and pulled back on investments, leaving the economy feeling stuck. Now, the job market didn't fully recover until inflation was brought under control, but that was a long, tough road. I remember that. But today, inflation is under control. So we're not facing that same struggle. But Andrew's concerns about high debt, regulatory uncertainty, and tariffs echo those worries from the 1980s when businesses predict potential price pressures. Whether from tariffs, policy changes, or new regulations, they often hold back on hiring and investment. And that can slow growth even if the rest of the economy is solid. So, while the October slowdown seems temporary, these broader pressures could make businesses cautious as we cruise into an election year. Economists are still optimistic, with many seeing October's numbers as a temporary tumble. Lindsay Rossner from Goldman Sachs calls it stormy numbers, but sky clearing. The Fed is expected to cut interest rates by 0.25% soon, which could ease some pressures and help keep the job market steady. But this October jobs report is a reminder that temporary disruptions and long-term tensions are both in play, especially as we look ahead. If this report feels like a storm cloud, remember that storms don't stick around. History shows us that disruptions like strikes and storms often clear up quickly, allowing job growth to bounce back. But if businesses stay skittish over tariffs, debt, or regulatory uncertainty, we could see a slower, more cautious job market in the months ahead. For those of you considering a career change, training, or even a new business, now's a good time to be prudent yet prepared. Are you ready for a fast rebound? And are you prepared if things take a little bit longer to level out? If this video got you thinking about navigating a nation in flux, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what's one economic issue you think that we should keep an eye on. To continue your learning, hey, here's a great video for you right here. Check the video description for resources, my notes, and as always, stay awesome, keep learning, and do good things. See ya!